The United States just moved two of its most powerful warships directly toward Iran, and Iran, a country that has been under sanctions for nearly 5 decades, just shot down an American F-15 Eagle, then an A-10 Warthog, then a helicopter, and the pilots, still missing somewhere inside Iranian territory, with Iran offering a cash reward to anyone who hands them over. So today we are going to break down exactly what is happening, the ships, the weapons, the geography, and why the situation in the Strait of Hormuz is far more dangerous than anything being reported on mainstream television. Let's start with the ships, because this is where the story really begins. The USS Wasp and the USS Tripoli are not ordinary vessels. These are amphibious assault ships, floating military bases, and they have been repositioned approximately 150 kilometers from Iranian coastline. Now most people hear warship and think aircraft carrier. But these two ships are actually more dangerous for what Iran is facing right now, because their entire purpose is to put soldiers on enemy ground. Here is how they work. Each of these ships carries around 5,000 Marines, elite combat troops, along with armored vehicles, hovercraft that can travel on both water and land, attack helicopters, and F-35B fighter jets. The F-35B is a unique variant. It does not need a runway. It takes off and lands vertically, which means it operates perfectly from a ship this size. And on paper, it was supposed to be the aircraft no enemy could ever touch, but Iran shot one down, and not with some advanced missile system, with a cheap surface-to-air infrared seeker, a heat-seeking missile that locked onto the F-35's engine signature and followed it straight to impact. This was possibly the single most embarrassing moment for American military credibility in years. The United States had been telling allies, including India, that no force on Earth could bring down the F-35. Iran just proved otherwise. Now let's talk about what these ships are designed to do, because Washington's official statement says this is about keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for global shipping. But the hardware tells a very different story. These amphibious ships carry Osprey tilt-rotor aircraft, machines that take off like a helicopter but convert mid-flight into a fixed-wing plane, moving troops at airplane speed and landing them in tight spaces. They carry Super Stallion helicopters, massive cargo lifters capable of transporting tanks, artillery, and dozens of soldiers simultaneously. They carry Venom and Viper attack helicopters for close air support during a ground assault. They carry hovercraft loaded with armored vehicles, designed specifically to storm a beach and push inland. This is not the equipment of a Navy operation. This is the full toolkit of a ground invasion. The ships themselves are layered with defensive weapons, ram missiles at 8 separate positions, Sea Sparrow systems, phalanx close-in weapon guns that fire 6,000 rounds per minute, 38mm heavy machine guns, Browning guns for fast incoming boats, autocannons for aerial threats, and vertical launch systems carrying dozens of strike and air defense missiles. If Iran launches a swarm of drones and missiles, which is exactly what Iran's doctrine calls for, some of them will get through, which is why the U.S. keeps its large Nimitz and Gerald R. Ford class carriers hundreds of miles further out, well away from the front. And here is the thing. Iran knows all of this. Iran's military has been planning for an American assault for decades. The country is divided into what analysts call a mosaic defense, 31 independent military units, each with their own missiles, their own command, their own supply lines. Even if the U.S. eliminates top leadership, and it already has, taking out Iran's president, defense minister, and several senior generals, the individual cells keep fighting. There is no single nerve center to decapitate. Geographically, Iran is also a nightmare for any invading force. The interior is a combination of mountain ranges and desert that stretches for hundreds of miles. Underground tunnels run beneath cities and military installations. Anyone who knows the history of what happened in Vietnam or Afghanistan understands what fighting an entrenched, motivated, tunnel-based enemy looks like. It does not go well for the superpower. Now here is what makes this situation truly explosive on a global scale. Iran has shut the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the entire world's oil supply passes through that narrow stretch of water. India's 60%, China's 80%. Europe, already struggling with energy after cutting Russian imports, is watching this with genuine alarm. Iran is not just blocking tankers, it is deploying what military analysts call a mosquito fleet. Small, fast boats loaded with 4 missiles each. The crews launch the missiles and jump overboard before the warship can respond. This makes the strait virtually uninsurable for commercial shipping, which may matter more than any single military engagement. And if Iran decides to expand that blockade southward to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, 40% of global maritime trade disappears overnight. The Houthi forces in Yemen, supplied and coordinated by Iran, are already in position to make that happen. But the weapon most people are not talking about is the desalination plants. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, none of these countries get drinking water from rainfall or rivers. They get it from industrial desalination facilities. Saudi Arabia alone operates 20 of them. Iran has publicly demonstrated it can strike with pinpoint accuracy. The same strike that destroyed an American AWACS surveillance aircraft on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base, targeting the exact tail stabilizer and radar dome to maximize the damage. So destroying a desalination plant is not a theoretical threat. If several go down simultaneously in the middle of a summer when temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius, entire populations face a humanitarian crisis within days. The Gulf states would be demanding Washington end the conflict within a week, which brings us to what Iran is actually trying to achieve. Iran is not trying to win a conventional war. It is trying to make the cost of continuing the war so high, economically, politically, and militarily, that the United States is forced to the table. Every cheap drone it fires burns an expensive American interceptor missile. Every oil tanker that delays its journey adds pressure on global markets. Every American aircraft it shoots down is a live demonstration broadcast to every U.S. adversary on Earth that American air dominance is not what it used to be. And this is where it gets genuinely dangerous. Russia is actively supplying Iran with satellite targeting data, precise, real-time intelligence, which explains why Iranian missiles are now striking within meters of their intended targets. China has been moving weapons through Russian territory into Iran via the Caspian Sea, a supply line the U.S. Navy cannot interdict. Chechen fighters, some of the most battle-hardened irregular forces on Earth, have offered to cross the Caspian and reinforce Iranian ground units. If that happens, the United States will not be dealing with a regional conflict anymore. And meanwhile, Trump continues to make statements that contradict each other within 48 hours. One day it is, we'll be done in 2 weeks. The next day it is something else entirely. Markets swing wildly every Friday when he speaks, then reverse on Monday. Whether this is deliberate psychological maneuvering or genuine confusion, the result on the ground is the same. Nobody knows what the actual American objective is anymore. Here's the bottom line. 2 American amphibious assault ships are sitting 150 kilometers off Iranian coastline, loaded with 5,000 Marines, attack helicopters, amphibious tanks, and F-35 jets, some of which Iran has already destroyed. Iran has shut one of the most important shipping lanes on Earth and has the capability to shut another one. Russia and China are providing intelligence and supply support, and there is no visible diplomatic off-ramp. The Strait of Hormuz has become the most dangerous 21 miles of ocean on the planet. And what happens there in the next few weeks will shape the global economy, the balance of military power, and potentially the trajectory of a conflict that is already drawing in far more players than most people realize. Stay with this channel, because this is only the beginning.